Okay, pictured here is former Atlanta Mayor Kasem Reed with Hillary Clinton at a campaign event. Here's another picture of Reed and Hillary Clinton together at the same event again. Mayor Reed, or the former mayor, is currently has a number of staffers that are facing corruption charges, and there have been investigations that go into the mayor as well. That actually, Kasem is involved in some of these investigations. Now, one of his staffers has just been sentenced over a corruption charge. Kasim Reed, very early on in the last presidential election, backed Hillary Clinton, even during the primaries, even before Hillary Clinton was the official candidate for the Democrats. Kasim Reed was one of Clinton's main backers, writing a bunch of anti-Bernie Sanders articles ripping Bernie Sanders, other Democrat candidates, basically part of this ring of Democrats that was trying to rig the primaries for Hillary Clinton. Even before the general election, Kasim Reed was a key person pushing these pro-Hillary messages. Kasim was actually one of Hillary Clinton's vice presidential picks, reportedly as well, or it was on the list of potential VP picks for Hillary Clinton, probably in part for this support. At the same time, he's been involved in these different corruption probes, investigations. He's tried to distance himself from the actual wrongdoing, the mayor, but his staffers have been charged. And some of these investigations, there's a lot of questions authorities looking into. For example, one instance where $40,000 was spent on one trip to South Africa from one trip by the mayor to South Africa. That was under review as part of a similar investigation as well. Now, his former deputy chief of staff to the former Atlanta mayor collapsed in court. That's what sources are saying. She collapsed after she had been told that she was getting a 2-year sentence in prison, and she was told that she has to pay $15,000 in restitution after pleading guilty to a corruption charge. So this is the staffer for Kasim Reed, the former mayor, that collapsed in court, according to Daily Mail. Other sources talking about this as well. They're saying the deputy chief of staff for former Atlanta mayor Kasim Reed collapsed and writhed on the ground while being sentenced to nearly 2 years in prison for a corruption charge. In August 2018, Katrina Taylor Parks pleaded guilty to conspiring to accept bribes while she was Reed's deputy chief of staff. Federal prosecutors said Parks accepted $4,000 from a city vendor in exchange for city work. When a federal judge sentenced her to 20 months in prison and said she must pay $15,000 in restitution, Taylor Parks collapsed to the floor. She convulsed on the floor, they're saying, and said that she couldn't breathe. The judge then apparently cleared the courtroom, asking if Taylor Parks required medical attention. One of her attorneys, responded that she did, and then medical personnel were then sent in to treat her. They have a picture again of Mayor Reed here, who she was working under. They do say that the judge was not able to finish. The judge was not able to finish advising Taylor Parks of her rights. Her lawyers in the government said the sentence wasn't finalized and will be completed later. On her way into the courthouse for sentencing on Monday, Taylor Parks told reporters that she was praying for a positive outcome. She's the 5th person who has pleaded guilty during a long-running corruption probe of Atlanta's City Hall. So many staffers working under Mayor Reed, and yet Reed's trying to say that I guess he didn't know what was going on under him. And meanwhile, you have these other funds that have drawn suspicion as well. The South Africa trip, other things as well. To close off here, saying in exchange for the $4,000 bribe, Taylor Parks said that she could help to arrange meetings between the vendor and high-ranking city officials, as well as introduce the vendor to a member of city council that has not yet been named. So there could still be more charges. This is the 5th individual. There's other people that they are investigating. They do say here as well, they talk about some of the other staffers, some of the other investigations going on, and they say that the City Hall corruption investigation, now in its third year, has ranged from prosecutions of bribery and contracting to a review of spending by former Mayor Reed and members of his inner circle. Again, this one specific trip, they're saying Invest Atlanta, the city's economic development agency, voted Thursday to review a $40,000 payment. This was in the summer, just before the summer of last year, but they were looking into this $40,000 payment that its nonprofit fundraising arm made to cover luxury airfare for former Mayor Kasim Reed and several of his staff on a trip to South Africa. This was in 2017. So that's among the things that they are investigating. Just looking at the wiki article on Kasim Reed, just some of the general info. They talk about, they do a rundown of some of the other recent staffers that have faced charges as well. They do a recap of his support of Hillary Clinton in the last presidential election. Reed came to national attention. So this seemed as well at the time, like I guess he was kind of picking Clinton's side to try to help his own political career. I guess Reed, it was because of his support of Hillary Clinton. They're pointing out here that Reed came to national attention. He got a lot of positive support from the establishment Democrats for his support of Clinton. That he then rose to national attention, backing Hillary Clinton for the U.S. Democrat Party nomination for president. Column published under his name on CNN.com. So he's writing an article, a pro-Hillary Clinton article for CNN, saying that Bernie Sanders was out of step with Democrats. This article was written by a lobbyist for United Health Group, Honda, MGM Resorts International, and other corporate clients. So he wrote this working with these companies, try to get Sanders out of the race. It was then edited by Correct the Record. It was also edited, the same article was edited by Correct the Record, which is a Clinton-supporting super PAC, just before publication. Before then, Thomas Friedman, a rightfully criticized journalist, probably one of the biggest establishment shills in the mainstream media. Thomas Friedman is a writer for the New York Times. He was a big backer of the Iraq War before and after. Definite establishment mouthpiece. Friedman, he has for a long time praised Reed, writing New York Times articles, favorable ones on Reed as well. So he's been a friend to the Democrat establishment, likely trying to get some of the minority vote to maybe move away from some of the more progressive candidates toward Hillary Clinton and others. I'm not sure if that's what they were trying to use Reed for and why they were trying to raise his profile here. But these corruption charges are definitely not looking good for his political future. And they talk again about Katrina Taylor Parks, who pleaded guilty in August. She was just sentenced this week, where she collapsed. In February of 2017, Reed fired the city's chief procurement officer after two city contractors pleaded guilty to federal bribery charges. February 9th news conference, Reed insisted that he has never taken a bribe. That's what he's claiming. And he gave reporters physical access to 406 boxes of documents that had been demanded. This was only after the documents had been demanded by federal investigators. He finally gave them up. On August 15th, 2018, Katrina Taylor Parks pleaded guilty. And we just saw the update on her sentencing today as well. They're saying that she will be sentenced up to 5 years in prison. Now, the article that we looked at, they're saying that it'll probably be closer to 2 years. Atlanta's top purchasing officer, also Adam Smith, he also received a reduced sentence of 27 months in prison. In a separate hearing, the former human services director and campaign advisor of Mayor Reed, another individual, is also accused of taking over $2 million in bribes. So she could face a much bigger sentence. Katrina Taylor Parks took a few $1,000s in bribes. You have another staffer for Reed, though, human services director and a campaign advisor. This was actually a campaign advisor for Mayor Reed, accused of a $2 million bribe. So that's pretty significant. Again, there's a lot of people involved here. Mayor Reed probably has, just given the connections that are up front here, I'm assuming there are some establishment Democrats maybe trying to protect the former mayor and just kind of get some of these staffers charged and get it resolved and pushed through the courts. But some of these people are getting sentenced. We'll see what happens. I'll continue to follow this. Let me know what you think. I will follow up with any additional details. I have a link to my Patreon account in the video description, patreon.com/realityreader. Thanks everybody that supports the channel through there. A couple dollars makes a huge difference. Helps me keep talking about these issues here. Patreon.com/realityreader. I also have a PayPal link, paypal.me/realityreader. Thanks everybody that supported either on either site there. I also have a link to the source article. Take a look. Tell me what you think in a comment, and I will follow up soon.